Joining me is the man who spotted this detail, passed it on to me, is Leith van Onselen, co-founder of MacroBusiness and a former Federal Treasury official. Leith, thank you so much for your time and thanks for passing it on. That is extraordinary, that revelation in that one graphic, and the government's never come out and said, oh yes, there is a link between immigration and the housing crisis. In your mind, what does this graphic prove?
Yeah, Andrew, this is absolutely scandalous. So Australia's cumulative housing shortage is already estimated by AMP Chief Economist Shane Olver to be about around 200,000 to 300,000 homes. Now, the government's own housing affordability body, the National Housing Supply and Affordability Council, has warned that Australia's housing shortage and rental crisis are going to continue to worsen over the next 5 years as immigration demand continues to exceed housing supply. And what their forecast is that Labor's going to miss its housing target, it's 1.2 million homes over 5 years, by about 262,000 dwellings. So that's about 22%. And they forecast that new housing supply is going to remain below population demand, i.e. immigration, for the entire 5-year period. And we're going to be 79,000 short over the next 5 years. So that's 79,000 on top of the already undersupply of about 200,000 plus. So as a result, they warn that we're going to have more homelessness, more overcrowding, et cetera. And as you point out at the top, Andrew, if we simply cut population growth by 15%, this is according to their own estimates, instead of having 79,000 shortage of homes, we'd actually have a surplus over the next 5 years of 40,000. And what this tells you in black and white is that the primary solution to Australia's housing crisis is to cut immigration, and that the housing situation will improve in Australia if we cut immigration. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but the government doesn't want to even go there. And I'll ask you why in a second. It says, instead said in the election, oh, no, we got plans to fix all this to help first home buyers buy their home. They're going to allow them to have their loans. They're going to guarantee their loans. The government is now going to guarantee their loans so that they can buy a home with just a 5% deposit. 5% deposit. So is that going to help?
No, it's not. So Labor's 5% deposit scheme for first home buyers is simply going to increase borrowing capacity. It's going to suck more, potentially subprime borrowers into the housing market, and it's going to lift overall demand and prices. So what we're going to end up after this, in say 5 years, Andrew, is going to end up with more expensive housing than ever and larger mortgages, because the people who've bought those homes are going to have smaller deposits to begin with. So we're just going to end up with higher prices and more household debt, without solving the underlying problem is that we're bringing in way more people than we can ever supply homes for.
Because that is the basic issue, isn't it? Too many people chasing too few homes. We're not building them fast enough. And whether you throw money to help people buy more, there's only that many homes, and there's still all these people, and that is the issue. Now, why doesn't it cut immigration?
Well, that's definitely a question for the federal government. They maintain high immigration for two main reasons. A, it's great for the federal budget, because if you bring in a whole bunch of people, they raise more income taxes and corporations taxes, but the cost of that population growth is deferred onto the broader population, onto state governments, etc., which is why states like Victoria are drowning in debt. They also run a high immigration policy because big business wants it, big property wants it, and the universities love it, and migration agents. There's a whole industry around this, Andrew. But unfortunately, for us, the ordinary Australians and the regular punters, it makes our lives more difficult. We have more traffic congestion. We got poorer quality housing that becomes more expensive. We have, crush-loaded infrastructure and services left, right, and centre. And ultimately, the economy ends up with lower productivity.
Yeah, and I actually think allowing people to buy their first homes early is actually a social good, because it teaches you responsibility, makes you feel part of the community, it settles young men down. I just think it's such a social good. And look what we are doing to the young. It is just disgusting. It's disgraceful. Leith van Onselen, thank you so much. And I should tell people to go to your MacroBusiness website, because if there's one, you cover lots of issues, but there's one in particular you cover exceptionally well, and it is immigration. I urge people to go to MacroBusiness. Leith van Onselen, thank you for your time.